I'd call them the Super Mario Brothers.
The Super Mario Bros. Movie is like a cinematic fever dream. Even if you have watched it, you probably have a lot of questions like, what was that? How did the characters and worlds from all of these games turn into this? Who thought this was a good idea? Where am I? And most importantly, when will the nightmares stop? In this video, I'll try to help make sense of it all by explaining the Super Mario Bros. Movie, but first, I'd like to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Raycon. So, Raycon is all about delivering a premium wireless audio experience directly into your ear holes. As someone who enjoys listening to music and audiobooks while away from the computer, the everyday E25 earbuds are great. Their charging case is small, sturdy, and sleek, and after the initial setup, the Bluetooth pairing is seamless. I've actually almost fell asleep with them in during my audiobook listening late at night, which is another way to say that they're designed for a comfortable, noise-isolating fit. If you'd like to get a pair for yourself, head on over to buyraycon.com/DPadGamer or click the link in the description to get 15% off your first order. Also, if you're on the fence, I should note that they have a 45-day free return policy, so why not see if they're a good fit for you as well? Again, you can go to buyraycon.com/DPadGamer via browser or link in the description for 15% off your first order. Big thanks to Raycon for sponsoring this video, which we will now continue with. In order to understand this movie, let's start with the how, as in, how did this film end up getting made? I am not going to cover everything, but still. The suggestion for a film based on Super Mario Bros. Was put forth by Roland Joffe during a script meeting at his production company Leitmotiv. Joffe started by presenting an initial draft of the script to NOA's president Minoru Arakawa, and then, a month later, to Nintendo's overall president, Hiroshi Yamauchi, at Nintendo's headquarters in Kyoto, Japan. There was interest, and he ended up leaving with a $2 million contract which gave him temporary control of the character of Mario, while Nintendo retained merchandising rights for the film via creative partnership with Leitmotiv. The first screenplay was written by Barry Morrow, and it was apparently so similar to Rain Man that it was titled Drain Man. Screenwriters Jim Genuine and Tom S. Parker were tasked with writing a more traditional adaptation, which would have been a journey through another world like Wizard of Oz that would subvert and satirize fairy tale cliches and focus on the two main characters' brotherly sort of relationship, which is pretty much what Shrek ended up doing. Greg Beeman was brought on to direct, but the failure of his recent film led to nervous producers Joffe and Jake Eberts to dismiss him from the project. Harold Ramis was offered the position of director, but he declined, something he would later say that he was glad about. After finding himself unsure about how to approach this film, Joffe began to think of Max Headroom.
Max Headroom.
And traveled to Rome to meet with its husband and wife creators, Rocky Morton and Annabelle Jankel. Oddly, in my opinion, the directors and Joffe were in agreement that their approach should follow the darker tone popularized by the recent Batman and TMNT films. Screenwriters Parker Bennett and Terry Runtz were tasked with balancing comedy with the darker tone, aiming towards funny but kind of weird and dark. Basically, Ghostbusters was their model. Despite working well with the directors, the two writers were apparently dismissed by the producers Joffe and Eberts for being too comedic, and they were replaced with British writing duo Clement and Lafreniere to deliver a more adult and emotionally complex script. According to Rocky Morton, it was around this time that a lot of money was being spent, so the film was pre-sold to a studio to raise money to finish production. Unfortunately, reaction from the studios was that the script was too dark and too adult and should be rewritten, or de-written as Morton calls it, which was done by Ed Solomon and Ryan Rowe. This was done 2 or 3 weeks before filming began, so when the screenplay actually arrived, it caught the directors and cast off guard. At this point, filming commenced, but it didn't go any smoother. The script they actually had wasn't compatible with the sets that had already been built. There were issues between the two directors, and the actors. Filming went way longer than expected. They went way over budgets. Unfortunately, more than one actor described the whole experience as a nightmare. It's also true that a lot of people honestly tried their best despite all of the production issues, and it's those two sort of different aspects which should be considered when looking at this film. Now that we have some baseline info, what does the movie actually contain? Well, to answer that, we'll look at the plot, and I will try to keep things as concise as possible. So, it starts 65 million years ago, discussing the meteorite crash which killed the dinosaurs. What's unique to this film is that the meteorite actually split the universe into 2 different dimensions. The dinos that survived crossed over into that new dimension, eventually evolving into the humanoid race of lizardy people that we will see throughout the movie. 20 years before the events of the film, a mysterious woman leaves a large egg and a rock at an orphanage.
How to crack an egg.
That egg hatches, containing an infant girl we later learn is Daisy. The rock is actually a fragment of the meteorite that killed the dinosaurs and split the dimensions, but henceforth, for clarity, will just be called the Rock. President Koopa wants to reform the meteorite, which will merge the two dimensions again, and then he can rule over it all. That's his whole goal. After being confronted by President Koopa, the mysterious woman sacrifices herself to collapse the tunnel and seal off the dimensional portal. Now, in the film's present day, the dimensional portal has been unintentionally reopened by the mafia-operated Scapelli Construction Company. This also unearths some dinosaur bones, which led to the archaeological dig, at which Daisy is the lead, despite, I'm pretty sure, just being an NYU student. Anyways, Scapelli shows up to intimidate Daisy because, you know, he's a bad guy, so she goes off to find an ancient relic known as a payphone to call and request more guards for the dig site. At the same time, our heroes, the Mario Bros, race their van over to a potential plumbing job only to find that their rival, Scapelli Construction Company, got there first. Their van breaks down, and then it's here that Luigi and Daisy meet.
You okay?
I've got a few problems, but
Well, you know, we got a van.
it's nice.
What my brother is trying to say, please, step into the van.
After giving her a ride back to the dig site,
Thank you for the ride.
It's a pleasure to meet me. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Dinner.
Do you eat?
Big Bro Mario plays wingman, and Luigi manages to ask Daisy out on a spaghetti dinner date that night. It's there that we get some more info about the Rock and also meet Mario's girlfriend Daniela. After dinner, Daisy and Luigi get to talking and head over to the dig site to check out some dino remains, while Mario takes Daniela home. I should note, Koopa's henchmen, Iggy and Spike, have been tailing Daisy since midday, but they are so dumb that they somehow end up kidnapping Daniela by mistake.
There she is.
Yeah? You sure?
2 arms, 1 head, 2 legs. Let's get her.
They eventually realize their mistake, return to the dig site, knock out the Mario Bros, and kidnap Daisy. The Bros give chase and finds Daisy being dragged through the portal. The CGI here is really unsettling, which may or may not be on purpose. Mario can't believe what he's seeing, while Luigi is actually the one who leads the charge, determined to rescue Daisy. One trippy dimension-hopping scene later, the duo find themselves in a twisted reflection of their own world, aka the city of Dino Hatton. This city is depicted as overcrowded, rundown, infested by fungus and pests. It seems pretty normal when described like that. President Koopa learns that the plumbers have the Rock, so he puts out an alert for their arrest. In the following scene, the Mario Bros are held at gunpoint by an elderly thief, who takes the Rock only to then have it taken by another lady we later learn is known as Big Bertha.
You want to give us the rock bag lady?
Right after, our duo runs into a street musician named Toad, who performs a bit of anti-Koopa exposition. The cops arrive, the 3 get arrested, and then they are processed at the police station at the base of Koopa Tower.
Name?
Mario.
Last name?
Mario.
Okay, what's your name?
Luigi.
Luigi?
No, Luigi Mario.
Hold on. Are we dead?
After meeting the big bad face to face, the Mario Bros and Toad are taken up to the Devo Chamber, where Toad is forcibly de-evolved into a more primitive form called a Goomba. This makes their brains smaller, which also makes them dumb enough to serve in Koopa's military. I should note that afterwards, Goomba Toad is given back his harmonica, which is how we can tell them apart going forward. Only then, Mario and Luigi make a daring escape, during which they stop by a pillar covered in fungus. They spot a little bomb, but continue on without grabbing it. After a bit of swinging to reach ground level, they steal a police cruiser and flee through the city in an absolutely chaotic sequence.
People ask, Jed, how easy is it to drive in the new Mario Kart Wii game? And Jed says, get behind the wheel. Want to do a flip? Get behind the wheel. Want to pop a wheelie? Get behind the wheel.
Hey, this is driving!
Every Mario Kart Wii comes with a Wii wheel. Rated E for everyone.
Luckily, they are saved by the fungus, which Luigi decides to stick his head through. Gross. Meanwhile, back at Batty HQ, Koopa finally realizes that Iggy and Spike are incapable of doing their job with their current brain power, and then gives this thought-provoking line.
Do you know what I love about mud? It's clean and it's dirty at the same time.
Okay. Once again in the Devo Chamber, Koopa has his cousins evolved, making them way smarter. After ordering them to chase down the plumbers in the desert, Koopa goes to creep on Daisy. Double gross. Finally, out in the desert, the now smarter cousins are immediately caught by the plumbers.
Oh, no. Where's the rock, scallywag? Where's Daisy, butt breath?
They want the rock, the bros want to save Daisy, so a truce is formed. Together, the group ambushes some garbage workers and drive a dump truck back into Dino Hatton. They then enter Boom Boom Bar, where Big Bertha and the rock can be found. With a bit of charm and some dancing, Mario steals the rock back, only to immediately lose it yet again to Lena and her guards. With not much else they can do, Mario and Luigi flee with some new Thwomp Stompers.
Look, another one!
Stop fiddling with the fungus and let's get out of here!
Heading back to Koopa Tower once more inside another dump truck. In the tower's basement, the bros do a bit of plumbing magic to crank down the building's temperature. The idea is to slow down the cold-blooded bad guys. This works, but it also triggers an alarm, so now they must make their way up by force if necessary. So, you know what that means. They can finally suit up for battle in their classic colors. With a bit of poorly hidden ADR. On their way up, the bros end up sharing the elevator with a bunch of Goomba soldiers. Hearing the relaxing elevator music, Luigi gets the idea to start rocking one back and forth. For some reason, this works, and despite him having no reason to understand that this would happen, they all start to dance, which is enough of a distraction for them to slip away unnoticed. Meanwhile, Lena visits Daisy once more, this time threatening her. Yoshi, which exists, I forgot to mention that, ain't having none of it, and he strikes, giving Daisy a chance to escape. Daisy runs into Iggy and Spike, who lead her to the Mushroom King's chamber, which is a large nest of fungus, which is also her dad. It's also gross. As for the brothers, on their way up the tower, they end up nearly falling into a bottomless pit, but luckily they are saved by the fungus yet again. Finally, our heroes reunite with Daisy, but before they can escape, there's a room full of damsels which may or may not be in distress. As such, Mario splits off to go save them, while Luigi and Daisy immediately get caught by Koopa. While those two didn't get very far, Mario successfully saves the captive women, leading them down an icy slide to freedom. It's here that they all meet up once more. Problem is that Koopa has mobilized his troops and he stands in their way. Before taking action, Mario and Luigi swap tool belts and again split up. Mario goes on the offensive, knocking the rock out of Koopa's hand, which is again yoinked by Lena, who somehow survives being electrocuted. Thinking on his feet, Mario uses his shoelace to trick Koopa, keeping his attention while Luigi, Daisy, and the rest of the women give chase. Koopa and Mario at a standoff on a bridge, which is when Mario finally decides to believe in the fungus. He pulls out the bomb Luigi got from the fungus earlier, winds it up, and sends it off. At the same time, Lena decides to try reforming the meteorite herself, which gives her a game over. It seems she was not worthy. Still, it begins to merge their two dimensions, which for some reason begins by just transporting Mario, Koopa, and some Goombas to Brooklyn. Koopa snags one of his soldiers' devolution guns, which, oh yeah, that's a thing, and fires it at Mario, but he misses, which, in retrospect, creates a really wonderful meme.
Monkey!
Back at the meteorite, Luigi fulfills his character arc by realizing the usefulness of tools, managing to pry the rock back out. Koopa, Mario, and the Goombas return to Dino Hatton, where they can finally fight for super real this time. The Goombas begin to march, but are quickly calmed with a bit of Toad's harmonica-ing. The Mario Bros then use some Devo guns to subdue Koopa, who's blown sky high by the bomb, which finally reached him. A bit more, and Koopa returns to Nickelodeon Slime, and everyone celebrates that their leader was murdered right in front of them. As if a curse is lifted, the Mushroomy King returns to normal, and the Mario Bros return into their own world, but without Daisy, because she is determined to see things put right in her homeland. A few weeks later, Mario and Daniela are preparing some spaghetti when Luigi hears them being discussed on TV. The host details their heroic deeds, claiming that they are worthy of being called the Super Mario Brothers. There's then a knock at the door, and a battle-hardened Daisy asks for their help.
You gotta come with me, I need your help.
What's wrong?
You're never gonna believe this.
I believe it. You do? I believe.
Finally, there's a post-credit sequence for one last joke.
Well, I must say we have a very exciting proposal.
A video game based on your many adventures.
What would you call it?
Iggy's World.
The Indomitable Spike.
The Super Koopa Cousins.
Now for my thoughts. It's a bit of a mess, and there is way too much repetitive exposition just thrown around with little effort, which also, when you think about it, ruins the entire thing. So, for example, early on, Koopa goes on a rant about how everything sucks, they have few resources, while the humans on the other side have a world full of resources for the taking. All he needs to do is get the princess and the rock, reform the meteorite, and then he can merge the two dimensions and rule over it all. Pretty straightforward, that's his motivation, makes sense. 2 minutes later, the Mario Brothers meet Toad, whose singing pretty much describes the exact same thing.
Ain't got no water anywhere. Food's bad, so's the air. Got no resources in a great big stupor. All because of the evil King Koopa.
After a few minutes, Toad continues explaining to the brothers,
Yeah, grand attention. My brother's from another dimension. Think about my
What do you mean, another dimension? Do you mean like our worlds have crossed over or something like that?
Sure, kid. You know, according to history, a long time ago, big meteorite came and blasted our universes into parallel dimensions. Yeah. You know what else I think? You know all that fungus out there? That's our old king. It's true. He's been de-evolved. That's right, he's been de-evolved into fungus, and now he's wreaking his revenge on the city.
and that is pretty much the movie's entire setup handed to the brothers outright in the very first act. Even if the brothers are barely listening and don't believe him, which I don't think they do, any chance for the viewer to figure things out for themselves is absolutely gone. When Toad is being thrust into the Devo chamber right after, he repeats that the old king is out there and that he is everywhere. During Mario's escape, they see a bomb in the fungus, and Luigi even says that the fungus was trying to give it to us.
Goombas, come on, let's go! Well, look, he was trying to give us that thing!
They're saved from their fall by fungus, which Luigi again acknowledges.
Let's get out of here before this fungus stuff eats us alive! Hey, the fungus just saved us! What are you talking about? It was my driving that saved us.
It wasn't your driving that just saved us. That tunnel just sneezed us out, and then this giant booger caught us in there. That's what saved us.
Oh, come on!
After Daisy is forced to put on a fancy purple dress.
What do you know about my mother?
She was quite an inspiration. To some. And Cooper took over. She stole the rock and smuggled it to the other side.
Which the audience literally already knows because we saw it at the start of the movie.
What about my father? Is he alive?
It depends on what you mean by living.
What are you talking about?
The Mario Brothers' trip into the desert is mostly pointless, though I guess it does show how barren things are outside the city.
Pick a direction. Any direction you like. Hey, that looks good over there, huh? That's it. Let's die there.
But right after, Koopa outright states that his failing city is the only thing out there surrounded by desert.
You must be the great Koopa.
That I am. Ruler of all that you see. A few miserable streets and an endless desert.
You've done a lovely job.
While I guess this could have been a good way to reinforce some world building and show how Koopa refuses to take responsibility for ruining his world, that's not what's happening. They're just repeating information. Again, the Koopa cousins explain the plot.
What's with this rock?
The rock is a piece of a special meteorite which was chipped off upon impact 65 million years ago.
Yes, you see, once this rock is reinserted into the meteorite, our two dimensions will reunite and we will become one.
And our cousin Koopa shall become ruler of both our worlds.
I don't get it. Why didn't you just go through before like you planned?
Are you fool? It's been sealed off for years until someone on your side blasted it open again.
Valley.
Afterwards, Koopa visits the Fungal King, taunting him.
My. You have let yourself go. You always wanted to be everywhere? Well, now you are. You can go ahead and choke this little mushroom kingdom all you want, because I'm out of here. I'm out into the bigger world. I got a couple of plumbers bringing me the rest of the meteorite. Soon to be dead plumbers. And by the way, you really ought to try to pull yourself back together again.
And then...
Daisy, I think it's becoming something of a shock.
Daisy, may I present to you your father? The fungus. Koopa's first victim of de-evolution.
This is my father?
Yes.
Then the Mario Brothers are saved by the fungus yet again, and Luigi later notices it trying to communicate with its toadstools.
Hey, Lamar, did you see that?
What?
It's trying to communicate.
Luigi, it's a mushroom.
And then...
I know this is gonna sound a little strange, but I want you to meet my father. He used to be the leader here until Koopa turned him into all this fungus.
Oh, well, it's an honor to meet you, sir, and a pleasure. And I just want to thank you for all your help.
Come on, Luigi. We're talking to the mildew in the shower next.
Well, Mario, don't you see? It's been trying to help us all along, giving us the little things to win the car we want to hang in there. Come on, he wants to clobber Koopa, too.
Makes sense. Yet Mario still doesn't believe until he does, when Luigi flat out tells him to just
trust the fungus.
Trust the fungus.
He's coming, Papa!
And then, back in Brooklyn...
And now, I'm gonna make a monkey out of you, plumber.
Trust the fungus.
Mario says to trust the fungus to himself, as if it's some revelation, even though he was just told to do that by someone else, like a scene ago. Toad is only there to share exposition, and later goes on to show that primitive dinos are capable of being good, but then again, Yoshi already does that. Daisy doesn't really have any real growth throughout the story.
Who's in charge of this hole?
I'm the boss here, but we'd be done here a lot sooner if your goons would stop harassing us. James, I'm gonna find a phone and call the university.
All right.
Keep everyone digging till I get back. Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you for letting me use the phone.
Oh, sure.
And for the quarter. Oh, look what she did to you.
Where are you going?
I have to help him! Stand still!
You want to stay?
Until we can get things settled here and I can get to know my father.
Oh, come on, Daisy. You know how I feel about you, right?
I do too, but I can't.
She's trying to tell you she can't leave you until she knows where she belongs. And if you loved her, you'd understand that.
Koopa believes that he deserves all the power, and that none of the world's problems are his fault, and he never realizes his mistake except maybe in the moments before his death.
What I care about is the future of our species.
Very well then. If not with you, then on my own.
Once the king is returned to normal, his only dialogue is
"I'm back,"
which literally explains what we're seeing on screen, and
"Love those plumbers,"
which is an opinion, I guess, so that's something. Iggy and Spike start as bumbling idiots doing whatever they're told. They then get forcibly made smarter and start thinking for themselves.
Excuse me, that hardly seems logical, does it? Perhaps we should stay and formulate our own strategy. Tete-a-tete. Inner circle, that sort of thing.
Choosing to ally with the Marios, help Daisy, and then flee to enjoy themselves over in our dimension. So yeah, not a lot happens, the writing isn't great, but at least the Koopa cousins are pretty cool. So we've gotten this far without discussing the film's references to the original games, so let's do that. Of course, I am DPadMovier, not DPadGamer, so I will be pulling most of my information from the Super Mario Bros. Movie Archive page on game homages, so that I can try to be as thorough as possible. Of course, Mario and Luigi are Mario and Luigi. Yoshi, while not green, is still small friendly and has a long tongue, so that's pretty accurate. Koopa, both called President and King in this film, is supposed to be Bowser, who was known to many as King Koopa early in his career. Daisy is, of course, the princess first introduced in Super Mario Land, though her status as the only one able to merge the dimensions is a holdover from Princess Toadstool in Super Mario Bros., as there, she was the only one who could undo Koopa's spell. Toad is just like the game character, wearing a sleeveless jacket and acting as an ally of the Mario Brothers, as well as a staunch supporter of the Mushroom King. He has a distinct spiral haircut, which might be inspired by Lakitu's spiral shell. The full name of Mario's girlfriend is Daniela Pauline Verducci. That makes her a direct reference to the original love interest from Donkey Kong. Iggy shares a name with a Koopaling introduced in Super Mario Bros. 3, while Spike is a simple enemy introduced in the same game. Scapelli acts much like Foreman Spike from Wrecking Crew. The archive also explains that when de-evolved, Scapelli is a reference to Donkey Kong. For me, this feels a bit flimsy, but the reasoning is that in earlier scripts, Scapelli and Daniela, aka Pauline, maybe there's something there. Either way. As for the other characters, the Goombas are horrific reimaginings of the classic mushroom-shaped brown enemies. Some have a more distinctly snake-shaped head. These are quite possibly Koopa Troopas if you squint real hard. Big Bertha shares her name with a specific fish from Super Mario Bros. 3, which is also very red. In the police station, members of the Fungus Squad could be Shy Guys, much like how the garbage workers outside the city probably represent Sniffits. Now for pretty much whatever is left over, the Bomb looks exactly like its game counterpart, though it is smaller than I would have thought, and it has a Reebok logo on its feet, I'm not sure why. The Thwomp Stompers are named after the large stone enemies, which uses cartridges designed after Bonsai Bills. The Boom Boom Bar, which the plumbers visit, is named after a boss from Super Mario Bros. 3. Within the bar, there's references to Fry Guys and Wigglers. Outdoors, there's signage mentioning Boo Diddley, Ostro, Bullet Bill, Fishbone, Fire Snake, Hammer Bros, Rex, Rotodisc, and Sparky, aka Sparks. Also, those gross skewered lizards showed early on are fried tweeters. And finally, the background materials calls the nation that Dino Hatton is within Sorosaland, which is a play on Super Mario Land's Sarasaland, so that's neat. Now, before we wrap things up, there is one more thing we should discuss. So, the Super Mario Bros. The Movie Archive website mentioned throughout this video was founded by Ryan Haas, who eventually teamed up with Steven Applebaum, who is now the site's editor-in-chief and public relations dude. Over the years, the two have proven to be dedicated fans of the movie, bringing exclusive interviews from people who have worked on the movie, compiling script and screenplay materials, and generally working to highlight and preserve the efforts that went into creating this film. Back in 2013, the duo had a chance to speak with Parker Bennett, one of the writers for this movie. It was Bennett and Terry Runt who worked with the directors to create the basic structure and characters of the story, laying the groundwork for Dino Hatton. There were at least 10 writers who had a hand in writing this movie, so in the end, very little of the dialogue that remains was written by Bennett, but still, One big exception is the last bit, which apparently was inspired by Back to the Future, where Daisy shows up asking for help with a sequel. Following Haas and Applebaum's discussions with Bennett, who told them about what might have been done for a sequel, they got to work on a sorta canon, unofficial sequel comic which ran from 2013 to 2015. In it, Mario, Luigi, Daisy, and a re-evolved and sorta restyled Toad fight to stop an invading force from taking over Dino Hatton. That evil force is led by a reimagined version of Wart, the boss from Super Mario Bros. 2. Unfortunately, the comic only received 4 chapters, so it is far from complete and will probably never be finished, but it's still worth a read, so you can find a link to it in the description below if you're interested. So yeah, these days video game adaptations are a bit of a joke, and people just expect them to be bad, and they often are because video games and films are two very different mediums, which take care and consideration to meld properly. If you're still interested, there's a lot more to be experienced. The archive details earlier versions of the film, and includes some deleted and unused scenes, as well as explaining the various troubles, which there were plenty, that arose before, during, and after production, so check that out if you're interested. But yeah, I think we're going to end things there. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you to my channel members for their support, and a super thanks to Pseudonymous, Achilles Rhodes, and Captain Crayfish for being super fans. If you enjoyed this video, that's awesome, because I pretty much never make videos about movies, so this is a whole different kind of thing for me, and despite it being initially supposed to be an April Fool's video, I put a lot of effort into it, and I hope I did a good job of representing this movie. Check out my other videos, which are on gaming stuff if you want, and I'll see you in the next video.